We continue now at the top of Daf of Vav Amud Aleph Mesechet Shevuos. This is Shevuos Daf 6a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara quoted the Mishnah in Meseches Negoim. The Mishnah in Meseches Negoim says that when it comes to the Negoim, when it comes to tzaras, there are two primary kinds of tzaras. It has to do with what degree of whiteness the tzaras has. And so the brightest white is what's called Baheres. And Baheres has a tolda. Its tolda, according to the Mishnah, is the color of Sid Heichel. It's the color of the plaster of the Heichel. And so therefore you can be mitzdarif if you have a nega that has a little bit of the color of Baheres, a little bit of the color of Sid Heichel. That could be mitzdarif to create the proper shiur, the proper measure. And then the other kind of av of tzaras is called the se'es, and the tolda of se'es is krum beitza, which is the color of the membrane of the egg. And again, those can be mitzdarif together. And the Gemara noted on the previous Amud that this Mishnah cannot be following Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva actually just says that there are 4 levels in terms of shades of white, and each one can combine with the next level, but it can't combine with something 2 levels away. And so the Gemara essentially said, if Rabbi Akiva would hold like the Mishnah sets it up that there's an av and a tolda, so then the Sid Heichel would not be able to combine with anything, because the Sid Heichel would not be able to combine with a level above it, because that's not its av, and it can't combine with the 2 levels above it, which is the Baheres, of course, because again, that's 2 levels away. So if it was a tolda, it wouldn't help according to Rabbi Akiva, because again, it has to be within 1 level. And the Gemara in the previous Amud asked, well, that's a good question in terms of Rabbi Akiva from Sid Heichel, but why not just ask the same question from Krum Beitza? We could say that Rabbi Akiva cannot follow the Mishnah in Negoim, because Krum Beitza is not going to be able to combine with the level above it, because again, it's not its av, and it's not going to be able to combine 2 levels above it either, because that's Rabbi Akiva's shita. So why is it that we're only asking the question from Sid Heichel? And so the Gemara continues and answers, Hi Mai. The Gemara is saying, well, how are you making a comparison between Sid Heichel and Krum Beitza as if you could ask the same question? It's not true. Because Bishlama below Sid Heichel, it makes sense if you didn't have the question from Sid Heichel, so Krum Beitza lo kasha, it actually would not be difficult from Krum Beitza. We actually could understand how Krum Beitza, how the membrane of the egg can combine with Se'es, even though it's 2 levels away. Di'afagav de Krum Beitza mitasoi de Se'es, even though Krum Beitza is below Se'es, again 2 levels below, and really should not combine, but that wouldn't be a problem because there's a specific pasuk. Because Rachmona Amar, because the pasuk says V'la Se'es v'la sapachas, it talks about the Se'es and the sapachas, indicating that sapachas, which is a much less bright shade of white, that could combine with Se'es. It would be like a gzeres hakosov sapachas tefela l'Se'es, that the sapachas is considered tofel to the Se'es, it's secondary and can combine with the Se'es. Afagav de minchas aminei tuva, even though it's much lower in terms of its scale of brightness. And so therefore we would say, since that's true by sapachas, we would say that's true by Krum Beitza at all. That's why we don't ask from Krum Beitza, because we have that pasuk. Ella Sid Heichel kasha, but Sid Heichel, actually, again, that would be a difficulty. We don't have a pasuk to get us out of that question. And so the Gemara essentially is explaining that's why we asked the question from Sid Heichel. And again, essentially saying that it seems like the Mishnah is not Rabbi Akiva. And the Gemara says, you're right. Ella machvarta, rather you have to say, Mas Nisan de lo Rabbi Akiva, that our Mishnah again is not like Rabbi Akiva. And the Gemara continues, Vehecha shamina l'Rabbi Akiva zu l'ma'ala mizu. Now, where is it that we find that Rabbi Akiva says in the Shita that again there are these 4 shades of white, and one is able to combine with the level right above it, but again not 2 levels above it? Where do we see that Shita of Rabbi Akiva? Ilema mehadatani. If you're going to say, it's from the following brisa. Amar Rabbi Yossi says, Shal Yehoshua beno shel Rabbi Akiva me Rabbi Akiva. Yehoshua, who was the son of Rabbi Akiva, he asked Rabbi Akiva the following question. Now, who is this Yehoshua, who's the son of Rabbi Akiva? Rashi says, very interesting, Yehoshua beno shel Rabbi Akiva hu Yehoshua ben Karcha. This is actually Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha. Rabbi Akiva kereya chaya. Rabbi Akiva was the Karcha here because he was bald. We make a statement like that in Bechoros to that effect. And so Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha is actually Rabbi Yehoshua beno shel Rabbi Akiva. Again, he asked me Rabbi Akiva, he asked from Rabbi Akiva, he asked from his father the following question. Why is it that they say that the Maros Negoim is 2 which are 4? Amar lo, he said to him, Vim lav, but if not saying it that way, Ma Yomru, so what should they say? So he said to him, Yomru, they should say very simply, simply. Mikrum beitza ulamala tame. They should have just phrased it very simply. Mikrum beitza ulamala, from that shade of white, of the membrane of the egg and upwards, that is tame. In other words, it's just a series of shades of white. So just list the one that's the least bright and say, as it gets brighter, that's the halacha. Amar lo, so he said to him, Lo mar shemitztarfim zemzeh. The reason why it was stated in that fashion is to say that they're mitztarif one with the other, that they combine in this fashion. Amar lo, so he said to him, okay, v'yomru mikrum beitzu lamala tamei umitztarfin zemzeh. So why not just say from the color of the membrane of an egg and above is tamei, and they're mitztarif zemzeh? Just simply say they combine with one another. Say it in that fashion. Now the point of the Gemara here is, from the fact that he is responding, he's saying to Rabbi Akiva in this fashion, mikrum beitzu ulamala tamei mitztarfin zemzeh. It does sound like there are simply levels, and they combine one with another. In other words, each one combines with the next level. That's kind of what it sounds like he's saying, and that's why it would sound like that's Rabbi Akiva's shita. In any case, Rabbi Akiva answered and said, Amar lo, he said to him, the reason why it was phrased in the way it was phrased, lo marlach, it was simply to tell you, kol kohen she'eno baki bahen uvish moseyen. If a kohen is not an expert in them and their names, if we would have just said mikrum beitzu lamala, that you start from this shade and just go up, then you're not going to know the names of the various shades of white. And we're trying to say that you need to be able to identify each one. Any kohen who's not an expert in them and their names, eino roes hanagoyim, he's not allowed to look and examine the nagoyim. And so the point over here is v'ilu misid heichal ulamala lo kamar, and it doesn't say anything about sid heichal ulamala. It simply says mikrum beitzu ulamala, and again from that phrasing, it sounds like it's saying that there are just these levels one above the other, and each one combines with the level above each one. Midolo amarle, from the fact that it doesn't say anything about sid heichal, shma amino, you see from here to shmiya leila Rabbi Akiva, that Rabbi Akiva holds the Amar, that Rabbi Akiva says kulu lavahade seis mitzdarfin, that effectively they all really do combine with seis. What does that mean? They all really combine with seis. Again, seis is the second level. Baharis is the brightest, and then seis is the second one. And the point over here is, according to Rabbi Akiva, if Rabbi Akiva holds that each one combines with the level right above it and right below it, so seis is now going to combine with everything, because seis is going to combine with Baharis, which is right above it. It's also going to combine with sid heichel, which is right below it. And then in terms of krum beitza, so there we can learn from se'es v'sapachas, what we just said above, that se'es essentially combines with anything, so se'es will combine with that as well. That's what it seems. Again, that's what the Gemara is saying. That's what it seems like from this discussion. But the Gemara says it's not necessarily a proof, because that's just a conversation back and forth, and v'dilma se'es v'toladita, baheres v'toladita. Maybe what he was really saying back to Rabbi Akiva was, he was saying that it should have been phrased as se'es and its tolda, and baheres and its tolda. In other words, it could be it was just a shorthand that was being employed in this brisa, but really this brisa was saying the exact same thing as we find in the Mishnah and Negoim. There's really no proof from the brisa, because you don't know from a conversation back and forth between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Akiva, you don't necessarily know that that's what they were saying, that that's how they were setting up the various shades of tzaras. So this is no real proof to what Rabbi Akiva says. And so the Gemara instead says, Elamid Rabbi Chanina, rather the proof is from Rabbi Chanina. The Yam Rabbi Chanina, because Rabbi Chanina said, Mashal to Rabbi Akiva lemahadover dome. What is a mashal for Rabbi Akiva's view in terms of the various shades of colors of white? And he explains as follows: Liarba kosas shel chalav, it's comparable to 4 cups of milk. Echad naflu lesocho, shtei tipin shel dam, and one of them 2 drops of blood falls in. So again, it's not like a pure white. V'echad naflu lesocho arba tipin shel dam, the other one, there's 4 drops of blood, so it's even darker. V'echad naflu lesocho shmona, and one of them has 8 fall in. V'echad naflu lesocho shtei mesrei tipin, the other one has 12. V'amri la sheish esrei tipin, some say 16. You just double the 8. The point is shakulon maros lov and hein, they're all shades of white. Ela shazel l'malam mizeh v'zeh l'malam mizeh. This one's above this one, and this one's above this one. Again, various shades of brightness. And so from that description as well, it just seems like there are 4 levels, and each one would combine with the level that it's right next to. But the Gemara says not necessarily. Amor d'shamad leila Rabbi Akiva bepasach. Maybe Rabbi Akiva here is just talking about pasach. Pasach means when you have, again, like a reddish mixture within the white. But b'cholok mishamadle, but by actual white, by pure white, do you see that he has these different levels, these different shades? If you're going to say that just like whatever he says by pasach, he's going to say the same thing by cholok, by pure white as well. But still, you can't say that. If a pasach gufe mishamadle, does he really say that by pasach, by these situations, again with the mixture of red? V'atanya, but we learned in a brayso, Rabbi Akiva says, adamdim shebozeh v'shebozeh, the red in this one and this one is kiyayin hamozug b'mayim. It's like wine that is mixed with with water. Ela shel baheres aza kasheleg, except that baheres, that's white as snow, v'shel sid deyo heimena, and when it comes to the color of sid, that's a little bit darker than that. And Rashi explains, Ela sha'ad mumiso shel sheleg aza, again, when it comes to the redness of the sheleg, of the one that's snow white, that is stronger. Kolomar levana mishal sid, meaning to say that it is levana, it is whiter than the shade of sid, than the shade of the plaster. V'shel sid deyo heimena, that the sid is darker, again, than the sheleg, than the baheres. And so the point over here is as follows, from the fact that it mentions sheleg, it mentions baheres, and it also mentions sid, shaminan l'reisha de shebozeh v'shebozeh de ka'amar. So you see that in the beginning line of this brisa where it says shebozeh v'shebozeh b'sheleg v'sid ka'amar, we're talking about sheleg and sid. Now why are we talking about sheleg and sid? Why are we talking about baheres, which is the brightest, and then sid, which is the third level, and we just skip the second level? Alma seder mishnasa shel Rabbi Akiva sid achar sheleg. You see that when Rabbi Akiva arranged it, he did have sid after sheleg, and again that would imply that we're talking about av and tolda like the Mishnah, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Vav Amud Beis.